Here's why you should send money home with Rewire. It's easy, and it's in your language. It's fast. Most transactions are completed instantly. The rest take up to 1 business day. It's safe. Rewire complies with strict regulations to protect your money and privacy. Plus, customer support is available 7 days a week in your language. Oh, and your first money transfer is fee-free. Open an account with Rewire today and manage your money your way.
Hello. Hello and welcome everyone to this session. I'm Rini. I'm the community manager at Rewire. And as you all know, Rewire is a neobank that allows its customers to send their remittances back home and also helps expats manage their finances better while they're still living abroad in various ways. And I'm here today because at Rewire, we really care about our customers, not just their financial well-being, but also their overall well-being. And we have customers from all across Europe, UK, and Israel joining us today. So excited to see all of you, and would love to see where all of you are coming from. Say hello from whichever country you're coming in from. And yeah, basically, so this session is basically focused to help our customers in various ways. So the past year, we all realize, has been a very difficult one for many of us in various ways. But now we are almost at a point where we are all emerging victorious in this war against COVID-19. And there are many success stories that we've heard around us. Also, many of us are getting vaccinated and are set for a very promising 2021. And in this year, Rewire is looking forward to inspire you further and to take your personal and professional lives to newer heights. So today we have a wonderful guest speaker, Rukmini Vijayakumar, joining in. Rukmini is the artistic director of Radhakalpa Dance Academy and the director of El Shiva, a creative space for artists in the heart of Bangalore city, and she is also the founder of the Radhakalpa method. It's an educational system for Bharatanatyam that is based on the idea of neutrality. Okay, and she has presented her work as a soloist all across the world, including at wonderful venues such as Jacob's Pillow Festival, Drive East, New York City, and the Corso Theatre here in the Netherlands. So recently, she played the Goddess of Love in Sukanya, produced by the Royal Opera House in London. She's a graduate from Boston Conservatory. Rukmini's process of creation is both traditional and contemporary. She was bestowed with the title of Arshakala Bhushanam by Swami Dayananda Saraswati. Also, as an actor, Rukmini has been recognized for the roles that she's played in a number of Indian films and theater performances. Let's all welcome the very graceful, the very beautiful and inspiring Rukmini Vijayakumar.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Rukmini.
So happy to be here this evening with all of you. It's evening here. It might be afternoon for some of you. And today I'm going to talk about passion, inspiration, and motivation. And I think that these 3 words, they get thrown around a lot, and everyone is always telling you that you have to be passionate about something, and you have to be motivated, and you have to be self-motivated, especially in times of difficulty, and you need to be inspired. But sometimes I wonder, what does this actually mean, to be inspired or to be motivated or to be passionate? And sometimes it's very confusing, right? And as an artist, these three things, especially passion, inspiration, and motivation, are a constant. And we have to be constantly passionate, endlessly motivated, and incessantly inspired. So it's something that is demanding, and we always are. People expect this of artists, especially when you're an artist, you take up a performing art, or you become a musician or a dancer, whatever it is. People always presume that you're passionate towards it, and that's why you take this up, and that's why you start it. And that is true. But while we do that, we do have to constantly be inspired, and that is something that is an effort. It is something that's done consciously, diligently, repeatedly, every day. And we cannot succumb to our own demons, which are our greatest enemies, whatever those demons may be. And for each of us, it's different. And one of the biggest demons is us judging ourselves and putting limitations on ourselves, And I think many of us have had possibly the worst year in the past 1 year. And it's been awful in countries across the world for people, like with jobs, lives, health, finances, in every respect. I think people everywhere in the world have suffered. But at the same time, this period has brought a sense of reflection, a sense of quiet, and it's also brought humanity together in a way that it's not happened in many hundreds of years. And we can talk to anybody across the world, and we have a sense of empathy about what's going on over there as well, And I think that in these times especially, it's important to ask ourselves, what is this idea of passion? How do we stay motivated when everything seems to be going wrong? And how can we consistently stay inspired? How do we stay inspired when anything that we had wanted, anything that we'd anticipated, doesn't go how we expect it to go, right? There's a very interesting thing that I heard recently, and when I was talking to a friend, and we were talking about this idea of passion and emotion. And I said, I always feel that whenever I do something, when I make a decision out of an emotional place because I feel something for it, it's usually the wrong decision because I'm too emotional and I say the wrong things, I act the wrong way. And we often say, do what your heart tells you to do, right? And while I also say that, and as an artist, we always listen to our intuition and we always work from there, there is also something that's very important, is logical reasoning to take any decision. Is to weigh the pros and cons and take your emotion out of the passion, which is such a funny thing to say, right? And I said, so she said, I think I heard this somewhere, and you should take the emotion out of the passion. And I thought that's a wonderful saying, and that reflects exactly what I think, because you do have to be passionate. You do have to work tirelessly, endlessly at whatever you strive or want to do. But when you take the emotion out of the passion, you suddenly have clarity of thought, and you suddenly know what to do in a situation that doesn't go your way, what to do, how to react when things are not going exactly how you planned or how you wanted them to go. And this happens constantly with artists, right? Because we, as artists, we're not the producers. We don't make the decisions or the choices. We're always at the mercy of programmers, of curators, of theaters, of people who invite us to perform, of people who commission our work. And in these times especially, it's harder because suddenly even that little control which we had over our art, we suddenly don't have any control because there's nothing to make. And there are no commissioners, and there is nothing that's going on, artistically speaking, largely in the last 1 year. So what keeps me going and what I like to do is that it's a very simple goal setting exercise that I do for myself. One is that I have these larger goals that are there, like I want to finish writing my book, or I want to finish choreographing this piece. I want to do something else, and all these goals are things that I can do. They are not goals that someone else can do. That's the main thing. Writing my book is all within my control. Choreographing my piece is within my control. Practicing more is in my control. So these are all goals that I set for myself, which is in my own control. Because in reality, that's the only thing we can control. We can't change someone else's decision. We can't decide how someone else reacts or how a theater will decide to curate or not to curate me. But I can make my choreography the best that I can make it, right? Ultimately, if it gets accepted or if a curator likes it or not, that's not in my control. So the first thing is to set these larger goals, which are all within your control. Then every day I set daily goals. So I make a to-do list, which is about 40% more than I can physically accomplish. And they may be simple things. They may be things like reply your emails and call this person back, finish choreographing this much and listen to this music. There some may be like finish thinking creatively about this particular subject, read a book. There's simple goals, there's small goals that you can physically do. And I think that in your brain, there are these nerves that give you like happy cycles, right? Like, you know, when you eat a chocolate, you suddenly like it goes and then you have this feeling of satisfaction, or a bite of, you know, like lick a bit of an ice cream or whatever it is. So there may be like these happy cycles that go around. And I feel like whenever you make these little lists and you do have your larger goal, whatever it may be, for me, it might be write a book, it may be something else for each person, is that these little goals usually lead towards the larger goal. And that's something that you do consciously, intellectually, with some thought. And every time I tick something off, there's a sense of satisfaction of you having accomplished something, of something having been done. It could even be like finish buying the groceries. It could be as simple as that. But whenever you finish something and you tick it off, and I feel like really happy whenever I'm done. I'll have yoga, finish my run, finish reading this, to practice my dance basics, or finish teaching my class, whatever it is. The moment it's done, there is this wire that goes, done. And then you suddenly have like a happy check mark in your mind. So I think that when you keep your head down and you just work from a day-to-day basis, it's impossible to be dissatisfied when things don't go your way, no matter how bad they are. And I'm not saying that terrible things can happen and you should be without emotion. Obviously, I feel emotion, and we've all had our personal struggles in the past year. But at the same time, there is so much that is not in our control, right? And there is so much that we all of us didn't anticipate a pandemic. The only thing we can do is how we deal with that thing at this moment right now from where we are. And by sometimes these things that are larger than life that we have no control over, like the loss of a loved one, or, you know, like losing your job or not having something for a long time, any of these things are things that we can't do anything about, right? We physically, like, it's not in our control. So at that time, I find that what has worked for me is to say, okay, done. I've cried. I've felt everything I need to feel. Now what can I do? There is no point in me wallowing in that because I can't function. I'm not going to move forward.
Yeah.
let me say I need this, and then I can set small goals at every point. So then I begin to set tiny goals and say, okay, wake up early, because I can't wake up early when I'm really sad. So I say, okay, fine, just wake up early. And then you do the next thing. So the tiny goals are a way of making this happen. Now we'll go back to what I was saying about take the emotion out of the passion. When you say take the emotion out of the passion, it seems like almost like an oxymoron. It seems like the opposite, right? They seem like it's completely the opposite. So I think that when you say take the emotion out of the passion, but why I felt that it reflected exactly what I feel is that it's when you're passionate about something, you work consistently towards it.
Correct.
But when you do not get affected by the product of that, or what comes from that, then you're no longer emotional, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm passionate. I'll give you in my example, which is my limited world of dance. So I'll say I'm passionate about dancing, and I will work every day to dance better, to create better, to be the best artist that I can be. But at the same time, if someone doesn't like my art, or if my choreography that I've worked on for 9 months, the curator is like, I don't like it. At that point, I can't get emotional about it. I can't get upset and sad and depressed. All I can do is, okay, it's done. I love dancing. And every moment that I got that checkbox done, I felt happy, I felt satisfied. And not only from a satisfaction from completing something, but a satisfaction for being in that work for that time. And then we move on. And there's a verse in the Gita that I've heard a lot, and it says karmanye vadikarastu ma phaleshu kadachana. It's in Sanskrit, and it says that the only thing, I'm just saying what I understand of it. I'm not a Gita expert, but at the same time it says that I feel it works very well, especially for people who have volatile professions, when you don't exactly know what's going on, is that don't think of the fruit of the labor, but the only thing that's in control is your own work and what you can do physically yourself. And I think Gandhi's also said that, be the change you want to be. And you can't change something else, but you can be the change first. And when you realize that you have all of this power to be the change, and it's not in anyone else's control. Our emotions are in our own control. Like my happiness, my sorrow, my depression, everything that happens, my anger, my angst, everything is within me, and no one else has made that angst. I have made it inside me. There may be something that happened, but I choose to react, and the emotion is all inside me. So when we recognize that, we suddenly realize, wow, we have a lot of power, and all of that power is inside me, and it depends on how I channel that and how I use it to my advantage. And yes, we all have these emotions, but it's all about getting them together and suddenly saying, okay, now that's done. Now let me take care of it. And then you have your logical thinking and your reasoning on your side. A teacher of mine always said, love the art in you more than you in the art. And I took a long time to understand what that meant. And finally, I realized it's the same thing about take the emotion out of the passion, be the change, and as well as and not you in the art. He meant that very often as artists, we get very attached to this affirmation, appreciation, accolades that come from our peers, which is wonderful, right? We get appreciation and people acknowledge that the art has moved them. And when we are in the art performing, especially as performers, it's a very big thing to there's even this song that says it's for the applause, we love the applause, and I think that it's very easy to depend on that happiness coming from something else or someone else. But when you love it in you, like when I love my dance within me, I find that kind of satisfaction and that sense of quiet just by being in the art. Now, if we go to this idea of motivation and where motivation comes from, when we stop attaching our sense of worth to an appreciation of that comes from someone else, then it's easy for us to motivate ourselves by parameters that are against ourselves.
Yeah.
And the parameters that we set for ourselves. So I did this yesterday, I did this today, and that's all that matters. It's not about you setting a parameter based on what you saw on social media or what you saw somewhere else. And often we can use that as something that inspires us, but not something that we judge ourselves from. And I think for me, what works the most is that to realize that I'm full, I'm fine, and I'm okay, irrespective of what I do or don't do, I'm still okay. And our actions or our achievements or our supposed successes don't necessarily define us or create our self-worth. We're worthy anyway by being human and by being people. And the moment you realize that, it's not difficult to be motivated, because you get demotivated only when you feel a lack of self-worth and you feel like you failed at something or something didn't work out. That's when demotivation comes, and when you don't feel like trying anymore. But when we realize that we don't need to be validated by the product of our actions or what comes from it, from the fruit of our actions, then we stay motivated anyway. So that's basically it. And I'd just like to say, try to take the emotion out of the passion and stay passionate. And that's the way I feel I can stay motivated, and I hope you can too.
Wonderful, Rukmini. I have a few questions. I think you've explained all the points very clearly. But thinking about the past there, I think a lot of people have been in situations where they've felt strong emotions which have stopped them achieve even smaller goals in their regular life. So how do you think people should be detaching themselves in situations where they're extremely nervous about somebody in their family trying to deal with some health issues, or maybe somebody is unable to deal with maybe the loss of job or something like that. So these are big things happening, affecting their lives. How do you think they should, the next day when they wake up, how do you think they should proceed with each small step that they need to take towards making the situation right? Because it's a strong emotion that they're dealing with right now. And do you think they should take some time off and deal with it and then come back? Or do you suggest that emotions will slowly go away once you also devote yourself to the task that you have at hand? What do you think works better?
I think it goes hand in hand, because I lost my dad recently, a few months ago, and it was a sudden shock for us as well as a family. And I'm not saying it's easy. It possibly never gets easy, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think it's important to kind of say, okay, to kind of look at it with perspective in some ways, right? So then you say, okay, I have these emotions. I do need to take some time off. And you take a little bit of time, but constantly remind yourself that these things are not in your control. You can't do anything about it, right?
That is true.
What exactly can you do? And these are larger than life. And how is it what can I physically do? I can physically open this computer, log in, I can talk to you. I can, like, get dressed, I can come here, I can put my phone, I can switch on the light, I can sit in a darkened room watching TV all day, or I can go for a walk, right? So ultimately, it's up to us to think of a logical solution and say, okay, this happened, I feel these things, now I need to get up and maybe walk outside. And maybe that's the biggest step you took, right? And then maybe the next day you walk outside and you read 2 pages in a book. And I think there is no exact parameter for each person, but as long as we have this mind that is functioning, that is not overwhelmed by emotions, we can kind of bring some balance. And once you, I'm not saying it's easy at all. It's really hard, especially when they're big things. It's very, very hard. But at the same time, we have no choice. We, as humans, there's some things that we can control and some things that we can't. And one of the things is the product of anything that we do, basically. Like, I can choose to cross the road, right? But on the other side of the road, if there's a dog that appears and bites me, that's not in my control.
That is true.
I can't do anything about it. So there's no point me worrying about what's not there, right? Because I don't know what's not there. One, there's no point me worrying about what's already happened. And there's no point me anticipating the future and trying to believe that I can control it, because I think that's the I hope that answers your question.
It does. Rukmini, also we have some of our customers here who are excited to talk to you. So we have Pawan Kumar asking you how to bring out the inner power in the present busy world today.
Life has become very manic in general. And I think that I feel like our previous generations, like my grandparents, had a much slower, simpler life. But I think that busyness of staying active, I've realized, is when that makes you anxious, that anxiety rests within us. Because I know that last year I had like a lot of travel, a lot of shows. I was flying West Coast, East Coast, back here, back there. I had no sleep and I was feeling really, I don't know, I never feel stressed once I'm dancing, but all that in between, sometimes I get really, I don't know, like down, right? So, but during the pandemic, I had a lot of time to think, and I thought that it's not the travel or the lot of work or the busyness that's making me stressed. It's just me. And it's about trying to find the quiet irrespective of anything else, right? And as long as you're quiet within, you will remain quiet. And that's something that we all aspire for. Obviously, you can sit on a beach or amidst trees on a hike, and you can be quiet, and it's much easier to be quiet amidst nature, or feel wholesome and full and understand the beauty that exists around you. It's much harder to do it while you're in the city working and going here and going there and meeting there. And I think that pacing yourself doesn't necessarily mean doing less work, but it's about changing your perspective about work. And I hope that answers your question.
Okay. So Rukmini, can you also tell us about how it started out for you, the motivation to learn the dance form Bharatanatyam? I think you've started out quite early when you were very young, like I don't know, kid. Lots of people around me are beginning at this age. I guess you've also started out quite early. And how has the journey been like so far? You've achieved so much. You've been traveling around the world, performing solo, and winning so many accolades. So much. I think it's amazing. Like when I look at your achievements, how do you think we should guide our children? Like today, everywhere around us, people are exploring, because we had the pandemic. People have had enough time to also explore the other side, apart from just their regular things. So they've been involved in arts, they've been involved in dance forms, and so much more. So how do you think, how can we get inspired from all the wonderful journey that you've done so far?
I started out very young, thanks to my mom. So my mom took me to dance class. It's usually the case. Your moms take you, and then you kind of just stay there because they keep taking you. So and I think that in terms of motivation and goal setting, I always saw my dad as an example because he was an early riser. He always woke up early. He was a big sports person and sportsman. So I would watch him get up at 5 a.m. every single day, and he would go to play badminton or squash or tennis. He would go running. And I think that sometimes it's important to see the people around us or people who do inspire us. And that's how it started for me. And I think my motivation came from emulating the people around me, I think, and how they did it, and I wanted to do that as well, like with, especially with, I guess, my parents. And I think that to keep it up once you're an adult is your job. And it's, I think when you realize that you're up against yourself, not anybody else, then it's easier to stay motivated. Yeah. And
nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have another question from our viewer. Meryl Weber is here to ask you, talking out the emotion from passion is easier said than done. How do we apply it in our normal lives?
Oh God, yeah, that's a very hard thing to do. But in terms of what, I'll just share what I like to do. I think that whenever I have something that I want to do, or the goal, I usually, and I obviously everything's related to dance or performance or choreography.
Yeah.
So I usually start working on something, and I particularly work on it only if I believe in it, right? And I think I have that luxury because I'm a solo performing artist. I'm also the director of my dance company. So there are two things. One is when you take something, like say it's a commission project and I don't necessarily have complete control over everything. I know that I understand and assess the situation before I take it, right? If I don't assess the situation, then I'll tend to get emotional because it's not exactly how I want it. People are not reacting the way I want them to react. I wanted to do A, but B is happening or C is happening. I think it's important to understand what's happening or who I'm working with. If I'm working with person A and I know they have a tendency to do only A things, I need to understand that when I go in there and I work with person A, there's going to be so many pros and they're not going to do C, even if I want them to do.
Yeah.
And so that's just how they are. And if I go in with that understanding, then you tend to be less emotional about it. And I can continue to do my work with passion once I am understood a situation. If I'm able to assess the situation and I know there are things that are not going to go my way, then I think it's easier to understand, because earlier I would like there would be some performances that that I know that I'm not going to get all my technical requirements, and you know that while talking to the person, whether it's going to happen, it's not going to happen, whether I'm going to get a carpet on stage when I ask for Marley, or whether there'll be like some plastic linoleum. So you know these things before. And earlier I would get very upset when I got to the venue and say like, you don't care about the performer, and it would become like a very emotional thing and very personal. But once I take that out of it and I realize that it's much easier, because I know that it's not in my, I can't do anything about it. And I feel like I'm going back in circles. It's the same thing that you can't control. So you can't control what's happening. So at that time, you can be passionate about your work and you do the best you can. But then you know that, oh, if it doesn't go, it doesn't go, and I can't be emotional about it. And I think it happens more and more with practice. You have to be conscious about it.
Yeah. And Rukmini, how do you deal with a situation where you wake up one day, you're motivated to do a lot of things, but then you wake up and you have like, I don't know, less energy and you're not excited anymore, but you had a lot of plans for tomorrow. So what happens tomorrow? Like, how do you achieve, do you think on achieving small goals and then still try to reach 10%, 20% of what you planned? Or do you think?
That usually happens like when I'm sick or tired or something like that. And I'll try to go through as much as I can. Sometimes I'll just, because it always helps when you have the list. I promise you. Like, it helps so much. So when I have a list of 10 things and I've made it the previous day, before I wake up and I have that kind of day, I already have this list ready. So in the morning I'll be like, oh, I have to do these things today. This is what I'd set up for me. So let me see if I can at least get through 3 or 4 instead of 10. And it happens sometimes, and that's okay. But if you have those small goals set before, you'll at least get 3 or 4 done. But if you don't have them, you'll get nothing done. That's what I feel.
So you suggest you should be a planner, and then you're good at achieving everything.
Achieving, I think, like, you at least know what, like, it's even more important when you have a volatile job like mine, because everything depends on me. Nobody's going to tell me, get this done, I need this due, that's done on that day, please get this done. Nobody tells me that. Nobody calls me and says, hey, have you finished your choreography? Because the onus is on me. I have to make it, I have to present it, I have to send it to creators. So everything I create, everything I make, my creative work, my practice, all of it depends entirely on me. But my teacher's not standing there and saying, you have to do it. So so especially when you're in that kind of a profession, it's very easy to kind of say, okay, I'm going to take the day off. I don't feel like doing anything. I'm going to relax. I'm going to go out. So it's even more important to have those tiny goals, I think.
Great. And what do you think about women around you? Like, how have women around you influenced you throughout your life? I think these days it's very important that we look at the women around us to achieving big things. I think we've lost Rukmini. Let's wait. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So you were saying you were looking at the women around me to achieve.
Yes.
I think I've always looked up to my mom. She's a very strong kind of woman. And I think there are a lot of things that she has taught me in terms of, being diligent. She has very strong opinions, and she stands up for what she believes in. And I think because of seeing these strong, my grandmom as well, my grandmom was a very intelligent woman. She would read a lot. She was very she's very passionate about arts, like craft, like music, and um, she used to make quilts, so she would sew all the time. And I think that watching these women with who had their own passions, right? They had something that they loved a lot, allowed me also to say, hey, I can also dream and do what I love to do. And I think I am a dancer because of these women who allowed me to dream.
That's awesome. Yeah. Okay. So Rukmini, one last thing. We have Holi coming up soon. So what are your plans for Holi?
Oh, I don't know. Because of the pandemic, right? Like
Yeah.
we might meet some friends
Nice.
and do something for Holi, because that's the plan. But I have no idea with the number of cases going up. But
Yeah.
hopefully, at least 4 or 5 friends we can see each other. And I don't really play with color, It's something that, but I like playing with water. So maybe that.
Yeah. We're very excited to see something nice coming up from you as well around Holi on your Instagram, on your YouTube as well. And yeah, I want to also tell our viewers that we have a wonderful coupon for you guys. It is based on different regions. I'll be adding the coupon code later after this session in the comments below. Feel free to use it. And there are 2 free transfers that you can send to your choice of country. And you can also enter the raffle contest where you can earn 1,000 euros from Rewire. So, Rukmini, thank you so much for a wonderful talk with you. It
Thank
was so lovely to have you. And I'm sure all of us feel much more motivated, much more inspired after this session. And would love to have you back sometime again, Rukmini.
Lovely to see you all. Take care.
Okay, thank you. Bye.